Dawn Brancheau was one of the most experienced trainers in the world. She trusted Tilikum with her life. But on a quiet February afternoon, 12,000 pounds of primal instinct decided that the show was over. It wasn't an accident. It was an execution. On May 28, 2016, the Cincinnati Zoo was packed with families enjoying the Memorial Day weekend. Among the zoo's most well-known animals was Harambe, a 17-year-old western lowland gorilla weighing close to 400 pounds. His enclosure was designed with multiple safety barriers, including a 3-foot railing, a row of bushes, and a wire fence, all separating visitors from a 15-foot drop into a moat surrounding the habitat. At approximately 3:40 p.m., a 3-year-old boy managed to slip through every barrier in less than half a minute. Security footage later showed how quickly it happened. Before anyone could react, the child fell into the moat below. The sound of the impact was loud enough to be heard by nearby visitors. Although the water was only about 1.5 feet deep, the fall left the child visibly shaken and stunned. Harambe immediately noticed the child and approached him. Zoo staff activated emergency procedures within seconds. Witnesses watched in horror as the gorilla grabbed the boy and began dragging him through the water. While Harambe sometimes handled the child gently, his behavior shifted unpredictably. At times, he pulled the boy forcefully, creating a terrifying situation where a single movement could prove fatal. Experts later explained that a gorilla's strength far exceeds that of a human. With a grip several times stronger than an adult man's, Harambe could have caused deadly injuries without intending to. The situation lasted nearly 10 minutes, with zoo officials forced to make a split-second decision. Using a tranquilizer was considered too dangerous. Sedatives take time to work and could have caused Harambe to panic, increasing the risk to the child. At 3:52 p.m., the zoo's dangerous animal response team made the decision to use lethal force. A single rifle shot struck Harambe, killing him instantly. The child was retrieved moments later and rushed to a hospital. Remarkably, he suffered only minor injuries. The incident sparked global outrage, debate, and grief. Some blamed the zoo's enclosure design, while others focused on parental responsibility. Harambe's death became one of the most widely discussed zoo tragedies in modern history, highlighting how quickly a routine family outing can turn into an irreversible disaster. Tatiana was a female Siberian tiger housed at the San Francisco Zoo, an animal once described by staff as calm and predictable. That perception changed in 2006 when she attacked a zookeeper during a feeding session, permanently scarring the woman's arm. Although the incident raised concerns, Tatiana remained on display. 1 year later, those concerns turned into tragedy. On Christmas Day 2007, the zoo had just closed for the evening. 3 young men, 17-year-old Carlos Sousa Jr. and brothers Amrit and Kolbir Dhaliwal, aged 19 and 23, were still inside the grounds. Witnesses later reported that the group had been shouting at animals and throwing objects earlier that day. Not long after, Tatiana escaped her enclosure. Investigators would later discover a critical flaw. The wall surrounding her grotto was only about 12.5 feet high, far below the recommended minimum height for housing tigers. Concrete fragments found in Tatiana's paws suggested she had clawed and pushed her way up and over the barrier. Once free, Tatiana headed directly toward the 3 men. Carlos Sousa was attacked first. The tiger struck with overwhelming force, inflicting fatal injuries in seconds. He suffered massive trauma, including skull fractures, deep bite wounds, and a severed jugular vein. He died at the scene. The Dhaliwal brothers ran, bleeding heavily, as Tatiana pursued them across the zoo grounds. They managed to reach a locked cafe and screamed for help while the tiger waited outside. Inside, a zoo employee called emergency services, but initially believed the screams came from a disturbed individual, not a tiger attack. This misunderstanding, combined with a security lockdown to prevent Tatiana from escaping the zoo, delayed the response. When police and armed zoo staff finally arrived, Tatiana was standing over one of the injured brothers. Officers hesitated to fire, afraid of hitting the victim. They distracted the tiger, and when she turned toward them, she was shot and killed. Both brothers survived after emergency surgery, but Carlos did not. In the aftermath, the zoo admitted that Tatiana's enclosure failed to meet safety standards. The incident exposed serious design flaws and became one of the most shocking examples of how inadequate barriers and delayed responses can turn captivity into catastrophe. Dawn Brancheau was one of SeaWorld Orlando's most respected trainers. With over 15 years of experience, she was known for her confidence, professionalism, and close bond with the park's killer whales. Among them was Tilikum, the largest orca at SeaWorld, weighing more than 12,000 pounds. Their relationship appeared calm and trusting until February 24th, 2010. That day, Dawn was performing in the Dine with Shamu show, an event where guests ate beside the pool while trainers interacted closely with the whales. As the performance ended, Dawn lay on a shallow ledge at the pool's edge, gently rubbing Tilikum's head as part of the routine. Without warning, the massive orca grabbed her and pulled her into the water. What followed was horrifying. In front of a stunned audience, Tilikum dragged Dawn beneath the surface and violently thrashed her around the pool. SeaWorld staff immediately launched emergency procedures, throwing nets and food into the water in an attempt to distract the whale. Trainers tried guiding Tilikum through a series of connected pools, hoping to separate him from Dawn. None of it worked. For nearly 45 minutes, Tilikum refused to release her. Guests and staff could do nothing but watch helplessly. Eventually, Tilikum was guided into a smaller medical pool, where Dawn's body was finally recovered. The autopsy revealed the brutal reality of the attack. Although drowning was listed as the official cause of death, Dawn had suffered devastating injuries. Her spinal cord had been severed, her jaw and ribs were shattered, bones in her neck were broken, and her scalp had been torn away. One arm had been ripped off, and her body showed extensive trauma caused by the sheer force of the orca's movements. The incident sent shockwaves through the marine park industry. Investigations followed, and SeaWorld permanently changed its policies. Trainers were banned from entering the water with orcas during shows, ending a practice that had long been considered iconic but dangerous. Dawn Brancheau's death became one of the most well-known captive animal tragedies in history. A stark reminder that even highly trained professionals are vulnerable when working with powerful wild animals, no matter how familiar they may seem. On November 4th, 2012, a family visit to the Pittsburgh Zoo turned into a tragedy that shocked the public. 2-year-old Maddox Durkosh was with his mother and relatives at the African painted dog exhibit. The viewing platform was elevated and protected by a railing, along with multiple warning signs clearly instructing visitors not to lift children onto or over the barrier. Wanting her son to see the animals more clearly, Maddox's mother lifted him up and over the railing. Within seconds, he slipped from her grasp. The child fell approximately 14 feet toward the enclosure below. A net was installed beneath the platform, but it was only designed to catch small items like phones or sunglasses, not a falling child. Maddox hit the net, bounced off, and fell directly into the painted dog enclosure. Inside were 11 African painted dogs, highly social predators that hunt cooperatively. The animals immediately ran toward the child. Witnesses described Maddox's mother screaming and attempting to jump into the enclosure, only to be restrained by other visitors who realized she would not survive the fall or the dogs. The attack unfolded in full view of zoo guests. Maddox was conscious as the dogs bit and tore at him. He suffered more than 46 severe wounds to his head and neck, and his internal organs were critically damaged. Zoo staff rushed to respond, but the enclosure design made immediate access nearly impossible. A police officer fired his weapon, killing one of the dogs in an attempt to stop the attack, but the remaining animals continued. Maddox died from massive blood loss before rescuers could reach him. In the aftermath, a fierce legal and public debate followed. The zoo argued that safety warnings had been ignored, while the family claimed the platform's design was inherently dangerous. Lawsuits were filed by both sides, though no criminal charges were brought against Maddox's mother. The case was eventually settled privately. Shortly after the incident, the viewing platform was removed entirely. The painted dog exhibit was permanently closed, and the remaining animals were transferred to other zoos. The space was later converted into a cheetah habitat. The death of Maddox Durkosh remains one of the most devastating examples of how a single moment, combined with flawed design and human error, can lead to irreversible loss. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stories like these, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.